Hey, good morning everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for Thursday, March 8th, 2018. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. Right now, for the most part, price is holding right here inside the middle portion of that larger key range, and that's something we talked about before, where on we're in March 8th right now, but back in February 6th here, we hit that major pivot low, and then that day I put the midpoint here and said 27.0375 is very important. At some point we might come down here and test the low, at which case it would be a fade back up. But for the most part, we're likely going to stay within the middle 50% of this range. And that's exactly what happened so far. And it's been a month after that time, and you can see here the 25% is resistance down here. You have support, haven't got quite here. So for the most part, we're still going to stay in this range. Right now we're flowing kind of quietly higher. We got multiple day highs here at about 27.30s, and if we can get above that zone here, if we can push through that area, we likely have a shot to come up here and test the upper edge of this range. If we do, again, it could be a fade right back down to this area, and again a fade back up. So right now we're just looking to fade the edges of this wider range. Short term in the day time frame, if this thing can start popping above 27.35, we have a shot to continue higher into that 27.50 and perhaps even as high as that recent high over the next few days. So for the most part, still chopping around that middle portion here. Got to continue to be patient until we get to the edges, and eventually after this thing matures, we're going to see some significant expansion from that range. Alright, let's take a look over here at the NQ now. Here's the NQ. Very similar analysis for this one as well. I mentioned on February 6th here that we'd likely continue to chop between the middle 50% of this range, and for the most part price did hold there and then kind of pushed above it and has held in the upper 50% of the overall range, and that's usually a bullish implication there. But again, as we continue to develop this range, we could continue to see fades off the edges. So if price comes up here and tests 7K to 70.50, that could be a fade back down towards 66.50. We test down here, it could be a fade right back up until proven otherwise, and that's going to be the approach right now. So in the very short term right now, very much like the ES, we're flowing to the upside, and we could have a test at 7K fairly soon. Right now we're testing 69.65 quarter proper, which is the Fomc key level, and again, we could be looking at more short-term upside before we see a potential rejection at the edge. So continue to watch that behavior there. If we take a look here at crude oil now, you'll see again very similar. It almost looks like we're not even changing the chart from the ES to the CL. We have that impulse sell-off here. We have a bounce back to the midpoint, which is 62.18, and so far we've been chopping in the middle 50% of this range. Now this isn't super common all the time. You're not always going to chop in the middle 50% after an impulse move occurs, but these impulse ranges were rather significant, and when there are rather significant sell-offs and impulse moves, you're usually going to stay kind of in the middle and digest that recent action, and that's kind of what's happened here. Middle 25, and fades off the edges have been the right approach. Right now, showing a little bit of weakness, but we have a nice little trading range here. If price comes down here to the lower edge, say 60s, that could be a short-term fade back up. If it comes back in this area, a short-term fade back down until we start to see expansion. But until then, we could have many more rotations back and forth off the middle part of this range, or even at the edges. We could drop down here and still be a great buy back towards 62.18. So right now, very similar. Crude oil, ES, NQ, all kind of chopping inside of their larger impulse ranges. If we take a look at gold, this one has had a very, very nice trading range that we've been playing pretty skillfully here, just because the rejections have been so nice. Very, very clear edges on this range, and each time has given very nice sharp rejections at the edges and follow through to the opposite edge. This time here we were shooting for a move back to 1338, and then I mentioned once we hit that initial target, we could chop a little while and then see a continuation toward 1360 to 65. And yesterday Price pulled back to 1330. I mentioned that that was a short-term opportunity for bulls if they wanted to add back or get in at that point. It could be an opportunity. And 1330 held on a couple of rotations. Eventually, bulls didn't get paid and the stops came out. Today, that 1330 is becoming resistance. But again, the flow is still to the upside. The flow is still to the upside, even if this is a wider pullback. I mentioned that before. The initial move was going to be here, and then we could see a little bit of chop back and forth before we see that continuation. And so right now you got to be a little bit more cautious, let this thing build out, and eventually we'll see another move present itself. In terms of Bitcoin here, Bitcoin did see a follow through to the downside that we were expecting. Remember, what we're looking for here was 12K to 10K, or rather 9K. That level right there up to about this level, that's the range right now. It's a pretty good sizable range given the price of Bitcoin. And I mentioned up here, we're likely going to move down toward this level here and as low as 9K. And if we do get into that zone, it could be a buy right back up. And again, that would be about a plus 30% on the price alone from 9K back toward 12. And so that's a pretty sizable move. Maybe perhaps we haven't gotten down there just yet. We might need to flush a little bit more and then start to work our way up. I don't think we flushed just yet, so we might have one more move down into 9K. And again, any rejection here could be a great little buy right back toward recent highs between 11.5 and 12K. All right, real quickly here, if we take a look at PivotBoss Masters /profits. Yesterday we finished up quantifying volatility with ADR here. Tuesday was advanced risk and portfolio management, and Monday was market structure principles. This is a great course here we finished up, a lot of great chart examples. Today is going to be trading with Fomc Key Levels. Friday, retraining your beliefs as a trader. And so for the Fomc Key Levels, these are powerful, powerful levels that happen every time we have a FOMC date where we're looking at a Fed interest rate decision. Very important key pivots that come there from that day that can last weeks, months, and even years into the future as key levels. So we'll be talking about those today. And if you want to find the video recording from last night's session, you go to prop training here, go down to ADR, and it'll pop up the PivotBoss ADR prop training page. From there you can scroll down to the very bottom, and it's going to be quantifying volatility with ADR. When you click that there, it'll bring up the course page, and from the course page you'll have the PDF right here, the video down below, and then additional ADR courses down below that. So that's where it is if you're looking for that. Again, if you go to PivotBoss Masters /profits, you'll be able to see the schedule. And if you're not already a member, again, a lot of great benefits to being a member. It's the best training education in terms of value, in terms of benefit that you'll get, and it was designed that way for a reason. So come over here, check it out. 30-day money-back guarantee. You can get into the live training courses the rest of the week. And, of course, we have all the various on-demand core training and proprietary training courses already available. Instant access to all this fantastic training. All right, everyone, that's it for now. Let's see how this plays out the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you soon.